Good morning. It's Friday the 5th of February, and while we continue to pray for those who are desperately unwell in hospital, we're also praying for those today, for those working tirelessly in the medical sciences and those thousands of people involved in the extraordinary vaccination programmes.
Yes, and we're continuing to pray for people we know personally, as well as I'm sure you are, who are terribly unwell at the moment, and loved ones sort of praying for them, and those who are caring for them. But we've come to Psalm 36 this morning, and you'll know by now that we frequently turn to a 2-volume Bible commentary by a Bible teacher called Derek Kidner, and who was a very gifted Old Testament scholar from a few years ago now. But his simple commentary brings these psalms alive and gives you a sort of natural gateway into how to read them and to pray for them. And his introduction into this particular psalm I thought was really helpful, and I'll give you a sense of how Kidner helps us into the Psalms. He says, "This is a psalm of powerful contrasts, a glimpse of human wickedness at its most malevolent, and divine goodness in its many-sided fullness." Few psalms, he says, cover so great a range in so short a space.
And when we were reading this psalm last night, it struck us that the picture is describing it almost like a downward spiral into wickedness that concludes in a complete reversal of the core Christian values, where it seems that goodness no longer has any power to attract, and evil has stopped being something that can be resisted. And it's a desperate picture, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it was like a sort of, you'll notice it as we read it, a spiral down into this really tight space where it's no longer possible to do good. And then the second half of the psalm, as it focus turns towards God, it's an upward look, and there's this enormous sense of freedom and hope as the focus just completely shifts. So see how you find that as we read Psalm 36 this morning. "I have a message from God in my heart concerning the sinfulness of the wicked. There is no fear of God before their eyes. In their own eyes they flatter themselves too much to detect or hate their sin. The words of their mouths are wicked and deceitful. They fail to act wisely or do good. Even on their beds they plot evil. They commit themselves to a sinful course and do not reject what is wrong.
Your love, Lord, reaches to the heavens, your faithfulness to the skies. Your righteousness is like the highest mountains, your justice like the great deep. You, Lord, preserve both people and animals. How priceless is your unfailing love, O God. People take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast in the abundance of your house. You give them drink from your river of delights. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light.
Continue your love to those who know you, your righteousness to the upright in heart. May the foot of the proud not come against me, nor the hand of the wicked drive me away. See how the evildoers lie fallen, thrown down, not able to rise."
And one phrase that particularly stood out for me when we read it last night comes in verse 9, the second half of it. "In your light we see light." Because we find ourselves wondering how this psalm helps us to live out our faith when we encounter real issues of wrong or injustice in our lives or in the world. How can we guard our hearts so that we're not overwhelmed by the personal situation, which over time would only make us perhaps despair or worse still, make us bitter or resentful. Yet at the same time, how do we avoid falling into the trap of verse 2, which talks about flattering ourselves and flattering ourselves too much to detect what is wrong in our own lives? We can't
often see that, in the midst of that.
Yeah. And the psalm is so helpful because it urges us to obsess, not obsess with the wickedness, but to be absorbed by God and His goodness, and that's why that phrase just really struck me. In your light, we see light. So when we're in His light, we can see truth and the light of things, the right things.
Yeah, and the light in this psalm almost sort of seems to, the light of God draws us upwards, doesn't it? From, as you say, focusing solely on the wickedness, and becoming just absorbed by that. But just this breathtaking freedom that when we look to God, which doesn't mean we acquiesce with evil or we don't speak up against what's wrong. The psalm invites us to do that, to notice it and to address what is wrong, even where it may be costly for ourselves, but at the same time, not to be then dragged down by that, to look to the goodness of God and let that freedom come to us as we seek to walk in His way with the very next step, whatever God has given us next to do.
And it's not easy, that it makes it sound easy, doesn't it, to just look to the light when perhaps wickedness even is
it's closing
affecting
in.
us, and it's very close. But it's something we have to work at.
Yeah, no,
it's not an
exactly.
easy thing. And that freedom which you talked about comes partly from no longer needing to prove ourselves. When we know who we are in God, and we're eternally secure, we can then step out and do the right thing, whatever the cost may be, which will be costly. We know ourselves to be loved and accepted by God because of what Jesus has done.
Yeah, which is why we've got a song which we're going to end with this morning that just assures us of the confidence that we can have in God because of who He says we are. It's a beautiful new song which Joanne and Neil are going to sing with the team from Trinity. We hope you'll enjoy it as a prayer, that you'll know what it means to belong to God, and that knowledge making you secure today in His light. So whatever you're doing over the course of this weekend, whatever you're facing in your life at the moment, may you know God's blessing and His light.
Who am I, the highest King, would welcome me? I was lost, but He brought me in. Oh, His love for me. Oh, His love for me.
The sun sets free. Oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Realize He has ransomed me. Oh, His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, He died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Sing that again. Who the Son sets free. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. And I am chosen, not forsaken. say